Hi, it's Terry Ryder from Hotspotting, bringing you my regular weekly feature, which is Hotspot of the Week. And the location I want to focus this week is one of those locations which, when you tell people about it, they say, seriously, you've got to be kidding. That location of the week this week is Gympie in regional Queensland. And yes, it is one of those markets that has a bit of an image problem, I guess, considered to be a bit daggy and down market perhaps. But right now, it's a location that's showing increasing signs of thriving as a property market and as a small regional city through local events and in particular its connections to the Sunshine Coast. So this is our, we have a location report on the Gympie market, as we do on all those markets that we rate for various reasons across Australia. And the key reason why we were interested in Gympie is because it offers an affordable alternative to the nearby Sunshine Coast market. It's got a pretty busy and thriving local economy. It's got affordability. It's got some good infrastructure and recent upgrades to the Bruce Highway between Gympie and the Sunshine Coast have made it increasingly viable for people to buy in Gympie and commute to work on the Sunshine Coast, because prices in Gympie are maybe half what they are in many of the suburbs of the Sunshine Coast. There are also two really big infrastructure projects going on or soon to happen. One's actually happening, the other one's soon to happen, which are likely to create substantial economic activity and jobs to further the prospects of the Gympie market. So Gympie is a small regional city which is the administration centre for the Wide Bay Burnett region of Queensland. It's about 160 kilometres north of Brisbane. It's just beyond, when you're heading north from Brisbane, it's just beyond the Sunshine Coast as you're moving along the Bruce Highway. It has the Mary River, which is both an asset and sometimes a detriment because it has had some major flooding events over the last, say, 7 or 8 years as a consequence of that. The Gympie local government area, the Gympie Regional Council area, its population currently about 50,000 people, projected to rise to 65,000 in the next sort of 15 or 20 years. It's got a diverse economy, something we always look for in regional centres. We don't like one-horse towns when it comes to investing in regional markets, and so we look for diversity in the economy. Gympie appears to have that. It has a strong agricultural economy that it services. It's got a strong tourism industry. Manufacturing is an important industry in Gympie. It's got a Nestle coffee factory. It's got a meat works. It's got timber processing facilities. It's also got major retail and healthcare industries, which are in fact the biggest employers in terms of the percentage of employment that's provided. Healthcare and social assistance is number one. Retail trade number two. Agriculture and manufacturing and education and training and construction are all kind of equal third in terms of the number of jobs they provide in the Gympie economy. Agricultural production is pretty big. The Wide Bay region delivers about $1 billion worth of agricultural production each year, including beef and sugarcane and mandarins as the main factors there. Gympie's got a history as a gold mining town, and as a result of that history, it's got a couple of attractions that contribute to the health of its tourism industry. The Gympie and District Historical and Mining Museum is one of them, and the Woodworks, Forestry and Timber Museum is the other. It's also renowned for a couple of major festivals that are held each year in Gympie. One is the Country Music Muster, which is held in August, and the other is the Gold Rush Festival held in October. Amongst the infrastructure that Gympie offers is a public hospital, private hospital, a TAFE college, and the Gympie Learning Hub, which is part of the University of the Sunshine Coast, which is a big factor of the economy of the nearby Sunshine Coast. Speaking of which, one of the main reasons why we're interested in Gympie as a market is that increasingly people are buying in Gympie and commuting to the Sunshine Coast is a growth economy. It's a transition economy. It's growing. It's creating jobs, and its real estate market is growing. But it's quite an expensive market. Very difficult to find suburbs on the Sunshine Coast with median prices below, say, 400,000, particularly in the coastal strip. Real estate is relatively expensive, whereas in Gympie itself, the median house price is 260,000. It's grown about 5 or 6% in the last 12 months. It's been 275 sales in Gympie in the last 12 months, and a median price of 260,000. So attractively affordable for people who don't mind commuting sort of, say, 40, 45 minutes down the highway. And it's increasingly viable because there's an ongoing upgrades to the Bruce Highway between Gympie and the Sunshine Coast, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. Other parts of the Gympie market, the location of Southside, where the median price is 330,000, and then you've got, as part of the region in which Gympie sits, we've got some coastal areas which are quite popular, Tin Can Bay and Kalula Cove, where median prices are in the low 300,000. So by national standards, a very affordable market, starting to show signs of price growth. Another attraction for property investors who might like the pricing, the rental yields well above average. For Gympie itself, the median rental yield right now is 5.6%. So proximity to the Sunshine Coast, and the shortening distance in terms of travelling times created by upgrades to the Bruce Highway, which are ongoing. Gympie in the past has had periods of strong price growth from 2005 to 2009. There was strong price growth, including years that had double-digit price growth. So it does have a track record in the past of good price growth. More recently, price growth has come back a bit. There have been a few years when prices have dropped a little, and that's been compounded by a couple of major flooding events. So it's something to be aware of, that there is the river and there is that prospect of flooding. I mean, it's not a case that the whole of Gympie floods when that happens. So it's just something to be mindful of, that you need to check flood maps if you're thinking of buying there, and making sure the property you're buying isn't one of those that's prone to being affected by floods, such as occurred in the recent past. There's been some pretty good rental growth in this market. According to official figures, the median house rent for Gympie has grown 10% to $340 a week in the last 12 months. So if the median rent is $340 a week and you're buying at a median price of $260, the rental returns are pretty good. Vacancies are low, below 2% at the moment, and they've been consistently below 3% for the last 5 years, according to SQM research. So one of the things that we always look to, probably the most important thing when we analyse markets, is what's coming up in the future, because we're always looking to the future. We're trying to identify the hotspots of the future with what we do at Hotspotting. Two major infrastructure projects that impact positively on this market, and including the generation of economic activity and jobs. One is the ongoing upgrades to the Bruce Highway. Recent Section C was completed. That was a $385 million project. And the next that's going to happen is Section D, which is a $1 billion project. The federal government has said it's going to chip in $800 million towards that project. And this is an upgrade of from Curroy to Curra. So it's an ongoing sort of widening of the highway from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. And it includes a bypass of Gympie, which will take sort of trucks and other heavy traffic away from the township of Gympie, which is deemed to be another positive out of that project. The other big infrastructure project happening in this region is the solar farm at Lower Wonga. That's a seriously big project, $2 billion project that's proposed, creating 450 jobs in construction. It's called the Lower Wonga Solar Farm, which will be located about 30 kilometres outside of Gympie. Big project, lots of jobs. So if that happens, it's going to be a further boost to the local economy. There's also another quite big project, sorry, a $60 million quarter horse racing facility, which is planned on a cattle property at Imbil, which is about 35 kilometres from Gympie. So those are the major events. There's other smaller projects, a recycling station at Gympie, $25 million project, expansion of the local meatworks, $10 million expansion. So plenty going on to keep the local economy active. But the big kicker for Gympie is that it's within commuting distance of the thriving Sunshine Coast economy, and property prices are much lower. So both in research terms and also in anecdotal terms, we're hearing more and more instances where people buying in that market are competing with home buyers out of the Sunshine Coast, particularly first home buyers. Median price in Gympie, $260,000, very affordable and within reasonable commuting distance of that very strong and growing Sunshine Coast economy. The big proviso, and the thing to be aware of, is that there have been flooding issues in Gympie in the recent past, and you need to check on that when you're thinking about buying property there. Okay, that's it for now. If you want to learn more about Gympie, you can get a copy of the location report for Gympie from the hotspotting.com.au website, and also location reports on other towns, suburbs, local government areas, cities around the country that we rate as markets with potential to outperform market norms. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from Hotspotting signing off. We'll talk to you this time again next week with another Hotspot of the week, but in the intervening period, sort of random live rants via Facebook. So we'll be talking to you again soon. Bye.